Welcome to Moments with Marianne. I'm so delighted we're spending this time here today. We have a very inspiring show coming right up with special guest, Melinda Kelly. And she's here today to share with us her new book, Finding Your Coach, Diving Deep Within. Now, we've been lucky to have Melinda on the show before. I mean, she is a well-known author, and she's a president of a privately held publishing and business consulting firm. With Melinda's professional life secured, her personal time was happily spent serving on nonprofit boards, serving in communities, mentoring college women, traveling the world, and sharing her professional and personal skills with friends as they start up their own business. So let's welcome to the show, Melinda Kelly.
Well, thank you so very much. I'm just delighted to be here.
Oh, what a joy it is that we get to do this again. I mean, we weren't talking we were just chatting at the beginning of the year, and now we get to talk about this again. It's so important people understand what this is all about.
I so agree, because with any journey, there's where you start. And then as you get down the road a little bit, you start to see more possibilities and how it also benefits your life. So very happy to share my discoveries and observations and hope they have meaning and purpose for other people.
Well, why don't we start with your story? I mean, what set you down this path of finding your own coach?
Well, like everyone, there's a story. I had been in my family business. As with any family business, it's a love-hate relationship. The thing you love most is you're working with your relatives, and the things that drive you crazy is you're working with your relatives. But I was good at what I did. I loved what I did. It was fun. It was interesting. I had the luxury of knowing my family members on many different levels. But of course, the problem with that is when your boss is your father, you never know if it's your father or your boss that you're speaking with. But it was this wonderful long run, and we got to do things that were innovative and cutting edge. And I look back on it now and am just so appreciative of that experience. When my father passed, it raised a whole new question. And yes, I did want to continue the business. And we were very good for quite a while when I suddenly realized that our being on the cutting edge, well, the world had caught up with us. And I had to honestly look at, did I have enough energy to completely reinvent the business? And that's a really tough question, because there's, we all just roll along and, well, it's just work. But the question when it becomes, is this what you want to do? Is this what you like doing? Are you doing this for you? Are you doing this to mark time? Are you doing this because of all the ghosts of the people who've been in the room with you? And those were really tough questions. And ultimately, I had to own up that I really didn't have the energy or the enthusiasm to completely reinvent the business, which meant, what is it I wanted to do with my life? And I realized that's something that we usually think about people asking in their 20s as they're starting their career, and then the proverbial midlife crisis. But what it's really made me realize is we probably should be checking in with ourselves all throughout our life if this is fulfilling us and if this is what we want to do. But with this big discovery, I had a few other things in my life implode that also made me look at everything. I had a long-term relationship change dynamic. I was faced with a family member's serious health issue. And I had to look at the quality of life and what it was I really did want. And I trotted out an old dream that I had sort of tucked aside. And I'd always wanted to write. I've always enjoyed writing. I've frequently received compliments on my writing. I've had people tell me I should write. And the odd thing when that happens to you as a child and as you grow up is it creates this odd expectation that I better be good at this because people think I am. And in my journey to write, I knew I needed to get help. And that's how I started finding my coach. And I've been so very fortunate that I've worked with phenomenal people. I've worked with some people that I think the best way to phrase it is we just did not mesh. But the majority of my experiences have been incredibly constructive. And even with them being good experiences, what I've realized is the importance of our paying attention to ourselves and our needs and what we need. And that working with a coach isn't just saying, here, fix me. Working with a coach is a joint relationship where you're sharing your dreams and your hopes. And they're saying, I think I can help you get there. Let's go.
That is so powerful. That is so powerful because a lot of times when people start a relationship with a coach, it is here, fix me, or I've got this problem, fix this. So it's not really looked at as this really co-creative relationship.
Oh, it is so. Every moment of it is joint. I mean, from the moment that you start speaking with someone, you honestly need to go in with an open heart and the belief that this is going to be great. And at the same time, you need to be a very loving skeptic and listen to them and what they're saying and what they're telling you and to see if that works. Because if you need to be warm and fuzzy, having someone who's a tough accountability person, you're going to disappear. And conversely, if you need someone to say, did you take care of task A, B, and C, and they're warm and fuzzy, you're going to get annoyed because you're speaking different languages.
Well, I think that that's real important to talk about language. And, you start your book off straight off with kind of discovering ourselves, and I kind of want to pivot here for a moment. You talk about, are we introvert or an extrovert? So why is it important that we actually start here?
Well, because until we know who we are, we don't realize what we're doing that may accidentally hurt us. If you feel you're an extrovert and you're constantly pushing yourself to be out there and look at me, I'm the extrovert. But the truth is, in certain situations, you're an extrovert. But most of the time, you're an introvert. When you first walk into a room, you might sort of hold back and size it up. You might be a little more introverted than you thought. Knowing who we are sets us up for success in every situation. And I know a lot of people think I'm an extrovert. And if I'm in the right room, I am. But most of the time, I might want to hold back and see who all's here and what's going on and size up the room and then start to talk with people. I, for the longest time, thought I was an extrovert. I think I'm probably, they call it an ambivert, which means we're a little of each.
Well, I think I fall in that category too. Maybe a little bit on the line of the extrovert, but I do appreciate having that time to myself where I can kind of recharge and really kind of get into my meditative state, which I think a lot of people like that downtime.
Yes, and I also feel that we've neglected the downtime. We don't give it the respect it needs because in our days, there's so little time to get everything done. And what we don't realize is taking the time for ourselves, even if it's 5 minutes to just exhale, recharges our batteries. And I was saying how much I love that it was a tradition in my family to have the rest after lunch. And I look back on it now, and I think you mentioned that Einstein, all the great minds have done that. Well, perhaps there's something we should be paying attention to, that there's a way that we recharge ourselves more than just physically when we take the time to take care of ourselves.
Isn't that the truth? There are so many things that you have in your book that's such a great resource. I know I keep referring to Finding Your Coach because it has so much information I think a lot of times people miss. And what's interesting enough, you get to this point where it's like, okay, we found if we're extrovert, introvert, we're going to start asking questions. And some of these questions I think are so important because a lot of times when people look at, if they're going to start a new venture or move forward in life, are they seeking their parents' approval? Are they wanting to be considered like a nice person or smart person? And you have these things listed. Are these some things that keep people stuck or things that they need to have to feel like it's okay for them then to move forward?
I think it's they don't even realize they're doing it. Because when we're little, we develop habits based on our family, not negative, not positive, just is. If you're in a big family, you might learn that you really have to speak up loudly in order to get attention. Well, what works well in your family situation probably doesn't sit real well when you're in a group situation with strangers. So what's normal to you doesn't feel normal to others. And so you don't understand why people don't sit with you, at the meetings. I have so fallen in love with questions, and thank you so much for bringing it up because as I said, I was so fortunate to work with wonderful people. But after a while, you're sitting in this room and everybody's got the, light bulb moment going on. And I'm not. So what am I missing? And that's how I started with my questions. And at some point, I realized they seem very simple, but the more you ask them, the more you realize it is a little bit like an onion. Understanding, are you doing this for approval? We've all sat in rooms where we want to look like the smart person and that we belong there. And we're so busy looking the role, we aren't taking the information in. So then who did we hurt? We're not going to see these people again. They have a nice impression of us, but we went into that room to gain information or knowledge, and we leave that room still without. And as I went down this list of things that I would mention to a friend, and they'd say, oh, yeah, I do that. And I started to realize maybe I wasn't a unicorn. Maybe I was like everybody else. And that's how my questions started. I was looking at the things that I feel most of us do without knowing. And that's how I started to fall madly in love with questions.
Well, but you ask the right questions, so, and I think that's real important to get to this place of self-discovery, because otherwise we're just kind of bopping around, and not really making any headway.
I would agree. And it's fun to bop around, but it's fun to bop around with purpose. Yeah. I'm not being facetious, but it's fun to have that joy of life, but to also have your purpose with it. And some of them seem to duplicate each other, but our relationship with a parent is very different than an authority figure. And yet so often we mix the two. And we may not understand that we have a resentment factor or that we acquiesce to somebody because, well, they're the expert, they must know. And when we do that, we take ourselves out of the discussion. And this is about us. They can have the best idea in the world, but it's not the best idea in the world for you. And until we realize that we are in a constant dialogue with everyone all the time, we're forgetting to take care of ourselves. And I feel that's so important, not in a selfish or a negative way, but that every conversation we're having is giving and taking and sharing. And if we're only taking and not sharing, we're not being fair to the other person that we're engaged with.
Yeah, that's so true, because you're not really feeling that connection. It's just kind of this flat nothingness.
Well, and I truly believe every coach comes with this pureness of heart wanting to help you get where you want to be. And if you say to them, I want to solve world peace by Tuesday, they're going to do everything possible to help you get there. But if you don't add that you don't have any way to get to the summit to make this all happen, they can't help you with that. They don't have enough information to help you. And they might have fabulous resources, but they never knew you needed them.
So, what are some of the questions people should ask, before they get started?
This is the one that I don't think a lot of us do talk about with ourselves, with our friends, is how open are we to hearing something we don't want to hear? And that's not even a big, bad, ugly, bugly, but someone might say, gosh, I hear what you want to do, and this is probably going to take maybe 6 months or a year because you've got a big goal. If we think it's going to take 2 weeks and it'll be over, are we okay with that? Do we have realistic expectations? Are we honest with what our abilities are? Are we comfortable committing the time to ourselves? And this, I find, is a very hard one for most people because everything in our world is focused outer. And the idea of taking time for yourself seems to be, well, aren't you self-absorbed, or is that selfish, or who do you think you are? Instead of realizing, no, it's not selfish when I know what I need and who I am. No, this isn't, aren't I so-and-so? It's helping me understand who I am, because then I can be even more than I am now because I'm coming from authenticity. There, so much is focused on what we're doing for everyone else, and that's important in our life because it's a reflection of who we are and where we come from. But if we don't take care of ourselves, we can't take care of anybody else. And it's just like everyone says when you get on the plane, you need the oxygen on you first and then help everybody else. And isn't it sad we need that reminder in a life or death situation? Because that's not how we automatically think. Our default is I'll help you, instead of realizing to help you, I need to take care of me. And then we together can go forward.
Yeah, that's so true. I mean, you can't give somebody, if you're an empty cup, you have nothing to give anybody else, So it's really interesting when we look at making sure that we have that time, that we're focused on ourselves in a healthy way, where we are showing self-compassion, self-love, and being able to really take that time for ourselves. I mean, your book is a great reminder for how important that is.
Well, thank you so much. I greatly appreciate that. And my hope is none of us like to stub our toe. And if I can stop somebody from stubbing their toe by understanding what they're doing that's accidentally holding them back, that would make me the happiest camper in town. Because it's such little things, it's such fine tuning. And it's not saying change who you are, it's saying understand who you are. If you love going and volunteering 7 days a week, my Lord, I love you for that. But if you're doing it because it's an expectation and it really isn't making you that happy, but you go, you need to own that. Or if you go because you enjoy working with the people, the camaraderie and the esprit de corps, well, that's a great reason. But if you'd really rather only do it 3 days a week, that's legitimate too. It's not about taking away. It's about finding a way to add to your life so it gives you more fulfillment.
Well, and that's a real interesting place to be, because I think a lot of times people, they think that they're going to go ahead and get a coach, but not really sure what some of the goals for having that coach really are.
And when we're not clear on what they are, when we go in and say, make me better, they don't know what make me better means. If you're if you go and you're trying to perfect your tennis swing or your golf swing, it's a very clear marker of what success will be. And so a sports coach is very clear that you're going to hit into the service zone quicker and easier and faster, or you're going to have a longer drive on the fairway. If you go to a business coach and you're having an issue with your staff, it's very clear when everyone is working together more cohesively or happier that you've achieved your result. Or if you have an advertising campaign and it hasn't been working right and some comes in and tweaks it and it takes off, you have a very clear marker. But when we go in and we're not clear, you can have the best person, but it's truly, I was suddenly struck with, if anyone's ever put too much salt in a dish, you can try as hard as you can, but you can't remove it. It's just wrong. And it may be the best ingredient, but it's the wrong ingredient for this.
On that note, we're going to pause here for a quick break. We've been speaking with Melinda Kelly in regards to her new book, Finding Your Coach, Diving Deep Within. You've been listening to Moments with Marianne. We'll be right back after these messages.
Internationally recognized and award-winning author Judy Goodman works and teaches outside the box of limited thinking. Working with people from every walk of life, her goal is to empower you to be the best you can be, no matter what the challenge is. Born with the gift of seeing beyond our normal vision, she has an extraordinary gift of working with every challenge. Teaching beyond conventional wisdom, her work is described as life-changing. Visit judygoodman.com. That's judygoodman.com.
There comes a moment when you realize you're somewhere special, when you discover that each beautiful creature that you see has been rescued from a life of absolute horror and brought to this incredibly free place. Here's where their lives were forever changed and where yours will as well. Discover over 500 tigers, bears, and lions at the brand new visitor center at the Wild Animal Sanctuary just outside Denver. For more information, visit wildanimalsanctuary.org. Discover true freedom at the Wild Animal Sanctuary.
There are nearly 2 million Americans living with amputation. Many live right here in San Antonio. Becoming an amputee can be scary, frustrating, isolating, but there's no reason to feel alone. The San Antonio Amputee Foundation is here to help support you and guide you toward resources such as home and car modifications and even prosthetic limbs. For more information or to make a donation, visit saamputee.org. We'll help you live a full, active life, one step at a time. San Antonio Amputee Foundation, healing limbs, hearts, and souls.
If not me, then who? This ethos is driving the Travis Manion Foundation to empower veterans and families of fallen heroes to develop character in future generations. In 2007, Marine First Lieutenant Travis Manion was killed in Iraq while saving his wounded teammates. Travis's legacy lives on in the 5 words he spoke before leaving for his final deployment. If not me, then who? Guided by this mantra, veterans continue their service, developing strong relationships in the community, and thrive in their post-military lives. Visit TravisManion.org and ensure the character of our nation's heroes lives on in the next generation. If not me, then who?
Welcome back to Moments with Marianne. We're here today with special guest Melinda Kelly, and she's sharing with us her new book, Finding Your Coach. So welcome back, Melinda.
Well, thank you, darling. This is just so delightful.
Oh my goodness, I've been enjoying this so much. I'm learning so much. One of the things that came up is we went to break and I was like, gosh, really want to understand, why should we look at our habits and our patterns?
Oh, because that is who we are, whether we like to admit it or not. We all think we're perfect. And of course we are. We're perfectly us. But we all have these disproportionate beliefs with how good we are with our time management. Because if we were really good with our time management, we'd all get 8 hours of sleep. I don't know anybody who gets 8 hours of sleep. And by that, I mean, we get up, most people, I think, grab breakfast, don't have breakfast. Right there, we start off where we're not fully nurturing ourselves. But we get it, we get in the car, we get on the bus, we get wherever, and we get to work. We then go through our day. Of course, there are all the things that need to get done that we push to the lunch hour, which means we may not be properly eating again. And then we get home, and now we, of course, have friends, social engagements, housework, banking, bills, things that we need to take care of. Oh, and we might like to have some social time too, be it, music, concerts, theater, television, news, whatever. And we still need to sleep. How are any of us particularly fabulous at time management if we aren't really owning, I'm going to enjoy going to a play tonight, and I know I'm going to be tired tomorrow morning. I know I want to go shopping, but that means I'm not going to be able to, have lunch with my friends today. We don't realize we're doing a million negotiations with our moments every day of our lives. So when we choose to suddenly add something new into it, such as working with a coach, which there is the time you speak with them, but there are the questions and the things that you're going to have to follow up on. And that's going to take time. And more than that, our friends love us. They support us. Whatever we're doing, they're there for us until they realize it might be taking time away from them. And so how do we work with those relationships that are going to be changed a little bit? So if we don't understand our time management, we're not going to see how we might be altering our days and our relationships with the people we care about, and even just literally our need for sleep. And I know I didn't think about that until I really started realizing how much time I was looking at where was I going and what was I doing. And not that it becomes an obsessive thing, but there is time that you actually use for yourself. And it might be with reading, it might be going to a lecture, it might be taking a webinar, but you're trading one moment of time for a different one. And that's going to change your day because you're putting another pebble into that overfull jar.
Well, when we look at, the pebble into the overfull jar, there's some other things that your book talks about that I found very interesting. A lot of times when we start working with a coach and selecting the right person to work with and getting to the place where we're really ready for that kind of a transformation, there's a lot of personal responsibility that we have to take. And how important is it that we actually accept responsibility for changing our lives?
Oh my heavens, it's huge. And I don't mean that lightly, because the fact that we even have to ask it means how disconnected are we? Because yes, I know we would all like, in the fairy tales for the magic fairy godmother to come along and tap us with her wand and it's all perfect. And if I find that lady, I will share her with everybody. But until then, am I willing to give up some of my time, our dear time management? Am I willing to honor that this is a dream, that this is a hope, and it might be one that can come true, and it might be something that I really don't have the dedication to do? And that's a really, really tough question, There are a lot of people, I think of professional athletes. I think about the people that train so hard and they are so excellent. And yet there comes a point where they have to say, I'm never going to make it to the Olympics. Are they going to be okay with that? We have to look at, this is going to require a degree of investment. You're going to be buying books or going to the library. You're going to be possibly going to lectures or attending things that are going to expand your knowledge or your knowledge base. Am I willing to do that? We have to look at, as I do this and I change, am I going to be able to sustain my friendships, knowing that some of them may not have been that healthy to begin with? And as I make changes, I may see less of them. And conversely, I may find new people that, my heavens, I don't know where you were, but I'm so glad we found each other. But we have to accept every moment is full of change, but we're making a concentrated effort at adding change to our life in the belief that this will take us to somewhere better. And that's a heavy responsibility. And I don't know that we really have been raised to think about our lives as intentional. I know for the longest time, I thought about my life as just accidental, or sort of like, this is just what it is, and you just go along with it.
Yeah, I think a lot of people believe that, or have been taught that, erroneously, that, you just get what you get in life and you deal with it, as opposed to you can actually create the life that you're looking to create, and not, and really be more of a designer of your life, as opposed to someone that is kind of put in this, I hate to say this, but almost like a victim kind of mentality, like, oh, life is happening to you, as opposed to you're creating it.
And I would agree. I don't know that I would use victim, but it's the difference of being passive and being active. And we so admire these people that go out and create something or make something, or I went blank on the words because I was thinking we look at people that become thought leaders, or I went blank on the young woman's name who was shot and took being shot on the bus in her country, Malala, and took what could truly be a life-ending, altering experience and found her voice. And I don't know how many of us are fully encouraged to find our voice, to find our life. And this goes back to my whole thing with questions. At a very young age, we start getting shushed. When we're little ones, everything is a question. Mommy, what's this? What's that? What's this? And then we start to hear, oh, stop asking me so many questions. But we know that they want to answer. And we go to school and we start to get shushed in subtle ways. Oh, that's a dumb question. Or we think if we ask it, they're going to think we're dumb. And so we stop asking questions. And so we don't realize that we sort of stop engaging and we just start accepting. And it's very hard to sit there and ask questions and to risk. How many times have people said, I want to be a doctor? And someone turns and goes, you have terrible grades in math. How are you going to do that? Well, that may be true, but that's something now. That's not something for as I continue my life. And so we get shushed and we don't realize it. And I'm so thankful for the people that dare to dream, to remind us we could do that too. We just need to start asking a few questions. And like I said, I don't want to think that we're victims. I think we just got shushed and accepted it. And it's sort of nice that at any time in your life, you can decide, you know what? I'm going to go out there and change it.
That's so empowering. And, one of the things you talk about in your book is emotional success. And I'd love for you to share with us what that is.
I feel so strongly about understanding the difference between success and happiness. And Emotional success to me isn't that I'm holding back the tears or holding back my emotions. It's that I have such comfort in who I am that if the tears come bubbling out, be it for happiness or sadness, they are. And this is me. This is who I am. What you've said has touched me. What has happened has thrilled me. I'm okay, but this is who I am. And too often I fear that we have this situation where I need to, just get through this. I need to have the stiff upper lip. And what we find more and more is that for men in particular, where this is how they've been raised, it harms them. It harms them in health. It harms them in their interpersonal relationships. It harms them in work. When we're truly upfront and honest with our emotions, we can really do anything.
And how empowering, and I know I've said this before, but how empowering is that? Because the thing is a lot of times people will stuff their emotions or how they're feeling or not really recognize what they're going through because they don't either want to be viewed as, bragging about themselves or being too vulnerable. I think being able just to be authentic is such a beautiful place to be in.
I so agree. And so often we're wearing our little mask. And I often think that's why the horror movies do so well, because it allows us to be scared with others together. And that's also why I call them the tearjerker movies. We know what's going to happen. We know the girl's going to meet the boy and there's going to be a problem and they'll get together. But we need that because it allows us to have that sentimental moment to believe that everything's going to happen. Our hearts call for it. And so we seek it out in different places. Why not have it just be part of our day?
Why do you think so many people are very uncomfortable with success?
I believe we've made success to be all about money. How many zeros before or after a certain digit? And success is so much more multidimensional than that. There is emotional success. There's collective success. There's collaborative success. There are so many different ways of viewing success. But when we just see it as money, money is just an object of exchange. But attached to money, well, if you have money, well, you must have been selfish. If you have money, people are going to ask things of me. When you have money, what are the expectations? That money has come to mean so many things more than just what it is. And so we think about the wealthy miser, we think about all these negative things, and we don't want to be a negative thing. We want to think of ourselves as noble, good, kind people. And the other is for some people, we unfortunately receive a message as we're children that this is who we are and this is what it is. And daring to dream of more might mean that you're the stranger in your family. And that's scary too. Families don't mean to accidentally limit, but yet we all do in some way. I feel that's why success has become a very strange thing. We don't look at it as more than this one dimension. And when we see it in so many other ways, it really does empower us to have whatever we'd like in our lives. And I want to say, I want everyone to have everything. I just want it to be their everything.
Yeah, I think a lot of times success can put people in a place of fear because it's really kind of the fear of the unknown. It's like, well, what if I attempt to get that promotion or do better at my job or work on my relationship and it fails? So it's like this, it could be a thing that kind of holds people back.
Well, but then it gets down to the question. Is it, do I want a healthy relationship or do I want this relationship? If it's this relationship, what am I willing to compromise? If it's this relationship, I know I'm not perfect and I know they're not perfect, but do our imperfections line up so that we help each other or are we hurting each other? If we go in and it's an absolute of what we want, then life isn't a Chinese restaurant. You're not going down a list and ordering things. It's a series of relationships and experiences. When we limit it to it can only be this, then we've limited ourselves and we're not asking the questions that'll empower us to get to what we really need, which maybe is, you know what? I have loved my time with you. You have meant the world to me. But I realized that when we started, we were in one place and we're now both in different places. And I want for us to still love one another, but we can't move to the next place together. It's not that your time here has been useless. You've learned a lot. You've learned that you need more. You've learned that there's a lot you love about this person, but there's some stuff that doesn't work for you. I don't see any relationship, good or bad, as a negative. You have the opportunity to learn who you are and how it frames you by how you accept it or how you decide you'd like more from it.
So, when we look at your journey in its totality, what do you think are some of the lessons that you really have walked away from? I mean, we've got your fabulous book, Finding Your Coach. What are some of the key points that you really walked away from that has empowered you to this day?
And thank you so much for your very kind words. And I really am so glad that you've enjoyed it. I feel one of the biggest is realizing you haven't wasted your time. That the greatest sin isn't taking time for yourself. It's not taking time for yourself. That every experience I've had gives me the opportunity to understand who I am in relationship with it and to it. That the people I haven't gotten along with, is it because they reflect something in me I don't like? Is it because we just were born on opposite sides of the universe and we're never going to like each other? Or do they represent things I want and I'm angry they have it? And if that's it, why is it I'm not letting myself go get that? When we're dealing with anybody, anywhere in a work environment, if I'm resentful someone gets a promotion, I need to ask myself, what did I do to merit it? Was it fair or unfair? Have I done everything I can to position myself? Was I making assumptions? All of those things play into helping me become better at what I'm doing. And this whole journey, to me, should be about discovering how to make ourselves happy, how to make ourselves happier, how to take care of those we love, and how to improve our world as you can. And yes, we'd all love to solve world peace by Tuesday, but how am I doing it daily with myself, with my neighbors, with my community?
What are some of the key points that you want our listeners and readers to take away from your book?
I would love for everyone to embrace questions, to not see them as the proverbial, what did you do? But to see them as a way to open doors to you, to understand yourself better. That I sometimes think we are all terrified that there is some, bad side to us. And there isn't a bad side to us. There might be a bruised side to us, though, that when something happens, we react poorly. But if we understand why we're reacting, well, then that bruise gets a chance to heal. That none of us come into this planning on making poor mistakes, but a lot of us do things out of habit, or there are traits in our tendencies, there are defaults that we just automatically go to. And sometimes taking the time to ask, is it still working for us, is the best thing possible. That when you're working with a coach, when you're working with any professional, this is your relationship. You are a full participant. If you don't particularly care for somebody, you don't have to explain it. You can politely say, thank you so very much, and decide not to work with them. If you find somebody you mesh with, just say thank you and go build. To know that every relationship and a coaching relationship is going to grow and to change, because you grow and change, and your hopes and dreams may grow and change. You may outgrow each other. You may work with someone and they are preparing you to work with someone else if you would like to. That you are the person in power of every coaching relationship, and you can decide if this is what you want to do or if this was the best idea you're going to let go of. But it's your choice. You can decide how fast or how slow you want to work on it, but you have to own that if you want to go slow, that you chose to do that, and you can't then be frustrated that your choice made it go longer than you thought it would. And mostly, I would like everyone to just have that comfort of asking a question of yourself, of knowing that it allows you the ability to see your past, your present, and your future in a new way, and in one that allows you to be your best self.
So often you hear about these coaches who tell people, just do what I say. Don't overthink it. Don't, really ask me questions. Just do what I say. And a lot of times that kind of raises a red flag for me, because I think it really needs to be a more interactive relationship as opposed to just blindly following somebody, because they may feel like their approach or their way is the best way. I'd love to get your feedback on, when we're looking for the right type of coach, some of the things that we should really watch out for.
Well, and I thank you. I so agree with that. I said shade of short of like an athletic coach where there's an A to B, but when you're dealing with hopes and dreams, that's a completely different situation. You know when you speak with someone if you feel good. Own it, honor it. If you speak with someone and the conversation is all about them, think about it. Is this going to be your process, or are you buying into their process of what you're supposed to be doing? There are certain areas where that is something you should do, but not always. When you are working with someone, if you start to feel that you're not being heard, you need to discuss it, or you need to own it or honor it, and you need to say something. If you realize they have become disconnected from the disconnect and are now very passionately involved in your life, you want them to be your independent voice. You want them to be your advocate, your dreams advocate. You have friends. But when we go to someone who's invested in it, we don't get the clarity we need. We're invested in it. That's why we aren't clear. That there, at any point in the journey, if you feel something is off, own it and honor it. And it gets back to the question, is when things are going well, you know they're going well. If things aren't feeling right, then take a moment and figure out why. Is it you? Are you withholding information? Are you not being upfront? Are you saying, I'm doing stuff and giving it lip service, but you aren't really? Anyone you're working with wants you to get your dreams. But if you're telling them you're doing things and they assume that you're putting in all this work and yet nothing's happening, they don't know what the truth is. They may have given you great information, but if you're not implementing it, it's not going to happen. So it always comes down to you and how you feel. Own it, honor it, accept it. And also, my biggest is be kind to yourself, because we all have dreams, and some of them are meant to sustain us and to give us hope, and some of them are meant to become real. We all need a castle in the sky, and for some of them we can build stairs, but some of them are just supposed to be there because one day we'll get there.
I think I have time for one more question here. I mean, we've covered quite a bit, just our personal journey, questions to ask, red flags to look for, what to look for in a coach. When we look at just our journey in its entirety, is there a point where we get to a place, I know we talked about maybe plateauing with coaches, but that we get to a place where it's like, you know what, I think I've got it from here. I'm going to just take the ball and run with it.
Then do it. That's the whole point. This isn't supposed to be forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. This is, you said, hello, I need a little help. And they've said, hello, I'd love to help you. And so once you think you have some answers, you go forward. But of course, you'll probably find something else you're going to have questions about, because that is life. We're constantly learning and changing and redreaming. So when you're working with a coach, there'll come a place where you realize we've done it. And that should be celebrated. If you don't want to leave them, you know what I'm going to say, then you have to ask yourself, why are you afraid? Is this your safety blanket? Is this your safety net? Do you feel better having somebody supporting you? And if the answer to any of those is yes, that's okay. It just means you're not ready to leave yet. But I also want to say to always remember, it is your choice to continue. And if you feel you've plateaued, that's a lovely time to thank them for getting to where you need to be. And to then say, I'm going to do this on my own. I'm hoping I can come back if I need to. And I'd be surprised to hear anyone say, oh no, once you leave, you're out the door. Because they really are invested in you getting to your dreams. So it gets back to the questions and back to you.
Well, that's what it's all about, is getting to this place where you can move forward in life and keep going ahead, feeling empowered and just strengthened.
Thank you. That really is what I would like for all of us, because when we're whole and healthy and happy, you can feel that within someone, and that vibes against somebody else, then they want to be the same way. And I can't think of a better way to live life than for us all to be fulfilled and full of happiness.
So, Melinda, where can our listeners connect with you, learn more about your book, Finding Your Coach, and be part of your community?
Well, thank you so very much. My website is melindajkelly.com, and my book, Finding Your Coach, Diving Deep Within, is available at Amazon. And of course, I'm on all the social media, and that is all under Melinda J. Kelly. And I would certainly welcome anyone's thoughts, observations, their questions, anything along that. I would love to hear from you.
Well, Melinda, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show with us here today.
Thank you so very much for this wonderful conversation and for such lovely, thought-provoking questions.
Well, thank you, Melinda. It's been such an honor to spend this time with you, and of course, to talk about your new book, Finding Your Coach, Diving Deep Within. Finding Your Coach is available at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and all indie retailers. Well, we're at the end of our time today. I would like to thank everyone for tuning in. You're listening to Moments with Mary Ann. And remember, make every moment count.
In a single moment, your life can change. Moments with Marianne is a transformative hour that covers an endless array of topics with the best of the best. Her guests are leaders in their fields, ranging from inspirational authors, top industry leaders, and business and spiritual entrepreneurs. Each guest is gifted and a true visionary, a recognized leader in her own work, and while teaching others to develop, refocus, and grow, Marianne will bring the best guest and sometimes a special surprise. Don't miss this. You never know just which moment will change your life forever. Moments with Marianne airs every Sunday, Monday, Thursday, and Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern and 5 p.m. Pacific Time. Make sure to tune in and visit momentswithmarianne.com for more information.